Ecosystem Exchange is the podcast series by T6 Ecosystems that explore different themes shaping our world. Each season spotlights a new focus, bringing together experts for engaging discussions. Through this exchange of ideas, we promote a sense of intellectual exploration, interdisciplinary collaboration, and actionable insights. Welcome to The Highlights, a fast-paced episode of the Ecosystem Exchange podcast from T6 Ecosystems. Each episode of The Highlights features a T6 researcher who focus on a single project, activity, or skill. I'm Simona De Rosa, partner and senior researcher at T6 Ecosystems, and today I welcome to The Highlights Stella Diakou. Stella is a PhD in archaeology from Brian Maurer College in the US. She held research and teaching positions in Cyprus, Italy, and Ireland, and she also conducted extensive fieldwork in Cyprus and Greece. Her work explored the intersection of archaeology, antiquities law, and heritage in contested and colonial contexts. In her current role as senior researcher in T6, she contributed to projects in the cultural and creative sectors, with a particular focus on impact assessment and policy dialogue. Following the episode with Veronica Liebel from Ars Electronica about the Starts Eco project, today Stella will explore the role of T6 in framing and implementing impact assessment methodology for the Starts project and more generally for the creative and cultural industries. Enjoy the episode!
Hello, I am Stella Diakou and I am a researcher at T6 Ecosystems. Today, I will be discussing the work we have been doing as partners in the Starts Eco Consortium and more in general, our work on impact within the Starts ecosystem. At T6, we've been working for years on methodologies to assess the impact of projects in the cultural and creative industries. As partners in the Starts framework, we are exploring the impact of Starts projects and more broadly, of artistic practices in transdisciplinary contexts. Why focus on this? First, because the relevance of initiatives like Starts, these collaborations between art, science and technology, is only growing. Especially in today's complex and often challenging European landscape, we need projects that foster new ways of thinking and working together. But supporting these projects isn't enough. We also need to understand and demonstrate their impact. This is something that T6 has a lot of experience with. Our impact assessment approaches are not one size fits all. Rather, they are refined over multiple projects, incorporating cycles of feedback from reviewers, artists, scientists, and host institutions. For us, impact assessment isn't about ticking boxes. It's about understanding. We do this by interacting directly with the main actors through interviews, discussions, focus groups, really listening to the people driving these collaborations. This gives us a front row seat to the thinking, the creativity, and the dynamism that make these projects so valuable. So what's the added value of our methodology? It's tailored. For example, in the Starts Eco project, we didn't just apply a template. We held workshops with artists and hosts to explore their own understanding of impact. Our approach is also modular and adaptive. This means we can adjust it to capture what's really happening on the ground, because no two collaborations are exactly alike. We are careful to capture their interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary nature, the upskilling that happens, the new knowledge created, the ways these projects transform perspectives and enhance critical thinking. And importantly, our methodologies look beyond deliverables to examine the progress, the processes, and the ways of working that make these collaborations meaningful. Impact assessment for us is a tool to highlight the value of these projects. It is not just about proving they matter. It's about understanding and communicating why they matter. Of course, this kind of approach isn't standard, and I think it's important to talk about why. Traditional impact indicators often don't capture the complexity of these projects. They tend to focus on what's easily quantifiable: economic outputs, job creation, or straightforward innovation metrics. And while these are important, especially because they are familiar to policymakers and funding bodies, we really need to question whether they are suitable for capturing the real impact of art, science, technology collaborations. At T6, we are indeed committed to leading this discussion in identifying alternative, more appropriate indicators for assessing the impact of such projects. These projects don't just produce products or patents. They generate new ways of thinking, new networks, new cultural and social values. They challenge assumptions and open up possibilities that cannot always be measured in euros or headcounts. Another challenge is timing. Impact assessments tied to funding cycles often end when the project ends, but impacts don't stop there. They keep growing, evolving, and spreading, sometimes in unexpected ways, years after the formal funding is over. That's something we really need to grapple with. If we want to do justice to these collaborations, we need to find ways to follow their impact over time, even beyond the life of a commission-funded project. In short, we need assessment methods that are fit for purpose, that respect the complexity, the open-endedness, and the long-term value of these cross-sector, creative, and transdisciplinary projects. At T6 Ecosystems, that's why we put so much effort into developing and refining our impact assessment methodologies. Not because measuring impact is easy, but because it's essential. It's how we make sure these collaborations don't just happen in isolation, but actually shape policy, practice, and thinking in Europe and beyond.
Thanks for listening to this highlight of our ecosystem exchange. See you in the next episode.